Alright. So, this is going to be my first time doing this. I guess I'm quite the adventure today. I'm doing a lot of first times today. But, so there's something that Daniel does that he likes to talk something philosophical and, take a walk out into nature. Of course, you never see his face, but my camera, like when it faces the other way, it's pretty bad. It stays in zoomed, you could say. But nonetheless, we're out here. I'm trying to button myself up. There's a bench. It's probably wet, but let's see if we can sit on it, talk. There's there's a lot of ideas that have been kind of going through my mind philosophically. You could say emotionally, whatever. I mean, okay, so that bench is really wet. But we'll walk. Why not? Let's take a walk. There's something that I read that it always kind of stuck with me. This sense of unity, this feeling of wholeness, right? And I think a lot of it kind of stems. I think everything that we do really stems from the fact that we want wholeness, this feeling of wholeness. So I guess you could say society today is kind of created off of a lacking, right? Or maybe we've even created the lacking ourselves in kind of our aim for wholeness, right? We've kind of misinterpreted our feeling of this yearning for wholeness. But there's a philosopher, William Ernest Hocking. He says that every feeling has a direction. So every feeling has a object of consciousness. Now this feeling of wholeness that we have, obviously there's there's an object of consciousness. There's a direction, but I guess the idea that when we really get down to the grips of it, we don't really know what we're doing. I mean, like, everyone talks about finding themselves, right? Yet, it's so interesting how it's like we kind of talk about it like an outer experience, yet it's a it's an inner experience. The only way out is in, right? Kind of that deal. But this wholeness, right? This yearning for wholeness. I think even love is kind of based off of that, right? Like our conventional understanding. A lot of people kind of have like this understanding of like, oh, a person, my other should complete me, which is kind of wrong at the same time, but it doesn't somehow neglect that idea that I was talking about, right? Like, we all have this sense of yearning for wholeness. Now, people have said, you can access that through yourself. And I mean, to an extent, that's true. That's true. But maybe there is no really, maybe there's really no doing, It's more like understanding that we all already a part of the wholeness. So, like, for example, I'm a Muslim, right? So the interesting thing about Islamic theology, especially in the Sufi, you could say, aspect, they find the smallest things to be a theophany of love, right? Like, look at a tree, look at a leaf, look at, feel the wind. They're all loci of manifestations of God's existence, essentially. They're all manifestation of God. They're all reflections. Even myself, right? Even though I assume this form, right? I'm just really a manifestation of God himself, which kind of sounds heretical for some people if you don't really understand what I'm talking about. Because, of course, if you think it's heretical, it's because you probably assume that the human being is, well, a being. And in a sense we are, but we're also not. At least this comes from Islamic theology. But my point here is not really to prove anything to you. It's more likely just to, just talk about this yearning for wholeness. I mean, I really feel like that's literally what everything is based off of society, right? Like, you grow up, you get degrees, because there's always that sense of incompleteness, right? We all have this sense of lacking, right? And we all think that if we, date that one girl or have that one job, we'll feel whole again. Yet every time we find that that job isn't exactly what it was, or that person exactly wasn't what we thought they were, and we're once again searching for this undescribable feeling for wholeness. And I guess you can say even say that society has kind of blindsided ourselves with this wholeness. Technology, modern society, we're all obsessed with efficiency. I mean, to the point we even want our partners to be efficient, efficiency. It's crazy. But the thing is, efficiency is almost it's limitless. I mean, you can always improve. You could always be a better person. There's always something to nitpick about someone. There's always a red flag to find. You're always gonna find one. There's always something. But the yearning for this wholeness, is ultimately formless if you think about it. I mean, our attachment to every form possible, whether it be a woman, a dog, money, the environment, it's all forms. Well, what's the origin of forms? The origin of forms is ultimately formless. And something that is ultimately formless is the whole that we're searching for, really. But what's crazy is that we can find this wholeness within the forms, right? We just have to understand that, we just can't be, I guess, caught up with the form. We have to understand that, yeah, the tree's a tree, but ultimately its essence, you could say, or it's a manifestation of wholeness, right? It's getting cold now. It's getting really cold. But yeah, it's a manifestation of wholeness. So I guess I just want to talk about that. I think once I countered the idea of unity and wholeness, it kind of never left my philosophical mind. The unfortunate thing, as a human being, I still get attached to forms. I forget that I forget a woman is just a woman. It's I forget that music is just music. They're not. They're only symbols within. They're only symbols that manifest the wholeness, right? It's kind of like that whole thing. I believe Paul talked about this. That between the idol and the icon, right? What's the difference between the idol and the icon? But yeah, it's this sense of wholeness. It never, and that's the thing. We're always looking for that, always. No matter if we think about it or not, there's this sense of completeness that we're dying to have, and sometimes it's misconstrued. It's a misinterpreted. We think it's money, we think it's women, we think it's drugs, we think it's a good life, we think it's so many things. We think it's freedom for everyone. We think it's all these things. And to an extent, it's like, yeah, you're right, and then you're wrong. Because then suddenly there's always another right to fight for. There's always another freedom to be free from. And it just seems like that sense of wholeness never quite becomes fulfilled, right? And I see this all the time in society, but yeah, it's my first time doing this, so if you like it, crap, maybe I'll do another one. I don't know. I feel like I'm always going to talk about unity and wholeness, and really multiplicity is just, wholeness. We all have this illusion of separation. That's what I like to call it. Illusion of separation. I think ultimately that's what pain is and suffering. It's illusion of separation. To the point we even cause pain to ourselves. And I'll admit, I am no saint in that area. No saint. But we try, and sometimes that's all that matters. Trying. That's something Heidegger would say, being towards death, right? But in Islamic theology, it would be being towards the other side of death, right? Yes, in Islamic theology, death is just another door. Die before you die. That kind of way of being. And I guess you could probably take that as,